Because this movie is called Men and the story sort of shits on men, I'm going to have my wife do the honors of introducing us.
Wow. Okay, let me get ready. Okay, let's do this. What's up, everybody? This is Movie Reviews with Simon and AKDI on X, and you can watch us on YouTube and Spotify as well. And today, I'm with my husband, who's Simon from Louisiana. Say hi, Simon.
Hey, everybody. I'm Simon. I'm Acti's husband, and I'm from Louisiana.
Yeah, and I'm AKDI, as you know, from Turkey. And today we are reviewing a movie from 2022 called Men.
Yes. Yes. This is Alex Garland. This is an Alex Garland film. He's a director. He's been working with A24 for a while. He's sort of like the guy that sort of put A24 on its back because, he did Ex Machina, right? And I also think some other movies for A24 as well, like Annihilation. He's done Civil War, and he's got some other movies coming out with A24 as well. But I feel like Ex Machina was the one that sort of broke A24 through and was a big monumental film. That was his first writing credit, director credit, stuff like that. And this film we're reviewing is a request. Is a request from one of our fans. So, yeah, any comments?
About the film?
Yeah, because I'm about to lay it down. So I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, well, I mean, I didn't know that this was directed by the director of Ex Machina, and, we reviewed that movie as well, and I loved that movie as well. And I thought this movie was not so bad. Like, I thought this movie was good in terms of, like, scaring me, because I was scared, and I was also thinking maybe the reason I was scared because I went through, like, the same stuff, like being stalked and being alone in the house and being scared. And maybe that's why it hit home for me. Cause I was like, there was really tension when I was watching it. I was going back, to all those scary memories a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And, I get that why people are criticizing this movie. I really get it. But honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it.
I got to keep it real with y'all. Is it scary? Yes. Is the tension high? Yes. But is the story interesting or smart or profound? Is it thought provoking? No, fuck no. This is garbage. This is this is trash film, low key, low key. Because I was into it until like the last 20 minutes, and when it became this surrealistic, avant garde, reality bending, universe twisting, you know, hot mess. I was like, I'm out of it. I'm so out of it. Like, what the fuck? Like, I could not get with it at a certain point.
I
Like,
thought you liked those movies.
I absolutely do not. I don't know where you ever got the idea. I like surrealist art. I I think surrealist art can be done well if the theme of it is poking fun at how reality can be surreal. But when it's just surreality just for the sake of creating something weird on screen, like a naked man with a leaf in his forehead, right? Or a man giving birth to another man. That's just, what is that supposed to say? I know it has a deeper meaning. I know there is a deeper meaning to sexism, patriarchy, and all that sort of shit in this movie, but I, it's done so poorly. It's done so poorly, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that it was like, I can see the idea behind the movie and the symbolism being cliche. Cause
Yeah.
it's just been done so much by so many different like directors in so many different art forms
Yeah.
that like, I don't think it's okay to say now that all men are the same and they are all bad.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
don't,
that's okay anymore, maybe, but
I
yeah,
don't
I
think,
don't know. I
I don't
still
think that's
enjoyed
what
it.
I don't think that's what the film's saying, but we got my guy Big Avery up in here. What up?
What's going on, man? Good to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you,
Happy
man.
weekend.
Happy
Hope you had a
weekend
good
to
one.
you. Hey, we doing all right,
Uh,
man. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know when did you see this film, Avery? Did you see it like when it came out or recently? Like what?
Yes, I saw it when it came out. I'm big A24. I mostly see all their movies. I saw that the dude that made Machina or something like that.
Yeah, Ex
Um,
Machina. Yeah.
he made this too as well. So I think I saw this before I saw Ex Machina. So I kind of this was his first film for me.
I see.
Uh,
Okay.
so when I watched it initially, I kind of had the same. I had a mix between both of both of your sentiments about the film. I think I went through it expecting it to be like a psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
But as the movie went on, and obviously I'm noticing, okay, there's a naked guy walking around. I didn't understand the meetings until obviously afterwards, but I
Yeah.
did catch that, I didn't think the movie was about men. It actually was about women.
Mm.
Um, so that's kind of what I caught when I first watched it. Um, and the second thing, rebirth was something that I kind of got from it too.
Mm.
Um, with her obviously going through that traumatic experience in the beginning, to how the movie ended and what she had to get through, all the things that were happening, and then the rebirth of her visualizing, seeing all those things happen to the creature, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That was some weird ass. But I mean, it was weird that I liked it because it was so weird. And then the symbolism between also like Christianity too in the beginning,
Mm.
because she ate the apple, and that's what set the movie off. You really realize
Mm.
she ate the apple in the beginning, and it set the whole movie off after that. That was like literally the point of the movie where it completely changed.
Yeah, I get you. Like you can see so many things, like layers in there. There's metaphors about Christianity and the way men and women interact. That's an
Mm.
interesting point of view to say that the film is about women, though, rather than men. That's an interesting take. Acty, what do you think about that as a woman?
I think I agree with it. And I think it is a movie about like generational toxic masculinity starting from Adam.
Mm.
And
Mm.
then it's sort of like how women are like traumatized by it and how women have like PTSD over it.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, all right, so let's walk through the story. The story is not really that complex. It's not even that long. So, like, basically, this woman, right, she's going to this country estate to get away from her city life and stuff like that because she's, just she needs to relax. And we don't exactly know why at the beginning of the movie, but we do see that there was like this black guy falling from her balcony and she's screaming as he looks at her as he's falling down and stuff in her flashbacks. But she makes it to this house, and this guy named Jeffrey, old British chap, is like showing her the place that she's rented in. It's this huge country mansion, and he's, making subtle comments that are kind of like sexist, like the tea and the flowers in the kitchen, like where it is and stuff like that, and telling her not to flush her tampons and where's your husband, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, she's like, well, thank you, Jeffrey. And yeah, he also makes a joke like Avery said, don't eat the fruit, or you shouldn't have eaten the fruit in the front of the house. But when Jeffrey leaves, she talks to her girlfriend and says, the house is really big, but she feels comfortable here, though it is a bit much. And when we go upstairs, we find out that the reason she came is because her husband sort of threatened to commit suicide because she wanted a divorce, and they had a big fight. And apparently, he did commit suicide because we saw him fall from the beginning in the film. Yeah, Avery, what do you think about that part? Like, if you remember that first
Yeah.
scene.
I remember it was. I guess it started the movie. She was talking on the phone or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Or no, no. Let me go back. I think it was quick because it happened with her looking out the window, and then
Yeah.
they showed us the fact they were having a conversation about the divorce. So, I
Mm.
mean, I think that also that why I said the movie's about women because he genuinely was sorry.
Mm.
To me, it felt like whatever he was doing, because I wouldn't apologize and talk to him if I wasn't sorry like that.
Mm.
So to me, it felt like he was genuinely sorry, and she wasn't having it. And her watching him his last moments was actually a reflection of her and what decisions she made. You know what I mean? So
Ooh. Okay.
that instead of forgiving him, you actually caused his death at the end of the day.
Woo!
Um,
Hot take.
yeah. So.
That's really hot. That's really coming in hot because the question that I had in my mind, because I just have to make this movie entertaining for me, I had to think about like, is it toxic to tell a girl, hey, I'm gonna kill myself if you break up with me or
It,
leave me.
Yes.
it is, but women do it all the time. So
Oh damn.
this is the thing. It happens on both ends. It's toxic for women to say it. It's toxic for men to say it. That's why I said in the beginning, when I finished everything, I said, okay, this got to be about women because why would they switch the roles? Because I feel like it's not known for men to, I guess, act that way. Or I don't know. I'm not a woman to actually know how men act, but feel like I've seen it on this side of women threatening to do that
Man,
if
that's
you leave
because you
them
date
more
them
often.
spicy Latinas, man. I'll
Yeah,
kill
Yeah, what
myself.
the hell? I've never threatened anybody to kill myself if they broke up with me.
yeah, it must
Boy,
be
them
the Latinas.
Dominicans is a beast.
Yeah, it's the Latinas then.
Hey, Aki, what you think about that? About the opening scene and about the idea of telling your spouse that you'll kill yourself.
Wow. Yeah, the opening scene definitely was relatable for me because I've had those like Airbnb hosts, especially in Turkey. I've never went to an Airbnb alone, but even when I was with my friends, like the host, looking at these, three, four girls who are young and thinking like they're hosts.
Mm.
And they would like say things that are, sort of sexist towards us and, no parties allowed,
Hmm.
no men allowed in this house and
Hmm.
things like that. So that was definitely relatable for me. And, yeah, when it comes to like that whole fighting scene and the guy falling from the, balcony,
Hmm.
I don't think it was her fault. Why would it be her fault that she wants to get divorced? Because we don't know the history of their relationship.
Hmm.
Obviously, they were married, and maybe, she had enough, and it's not her fault that, like, he's threatening her to kill himself. But he's done mistakes for the past year, as he says. And yeah, she just doesn't want to be with him anymore and doesn't want his apology either. So
I
I
think.
don't see anything wrong with that.
She didn't want his
And
apology or his life.
Damn.
wow.
All right, all right. This asks a big ass question. I think if you tell a girl like, "Hey, I'm gonna kill myself if you break up with me," that at most buys you a week. It buys you a week to sort of like
Yes,
get shit
yes,
straight.
yes. That's what I mean by her immediate dismissal of the. I guess we don't know if he said this before, so
Yeah,
that's the
I
thing.
think
What makes
he
the
said
movie
it
think?
many times.
Yes, yeah. So he seemed like
But
the type.
also, you guys are skipping through like the part where he hit her.
Yeah, we're gonna jump ahead to that. That's further ahead, but yeah, basically flashbacks, we see more of that conversation. And basically, yeah, her husband, whose name is James, punched her in the face when he like took her phone and she was like texting her friend like he scares me because he said he was going to kill himself. So he punched her in the face. He said, "I'm sorry, Harper," and Harper, the woman, like pushes him out of the house. And then we find out later he tried to break into somebody else's apartment above hers to jump onto the balcony, fell, and then he ended up breaking his ankle and cutting his wrist on like the gate, right? Like splitting his hand open and he bled out and it was horrific death. So yeah, go ahead.
Mhm,
I think one thing that stood out to me is that when she sees him falling from the balcony, he's facing her. And then
Mm.
when we see him dead afterwards, he's facing towards the sea or towards the
Mm.
river. So I felt like that's also something she imagined because of her guilt. Because, like, how is he going to be flipping around, in that time, at that time?
That's a good point.
So, yeah, I
mhm,
think it was kind of like her imagination because of the guilt he gave her because he kept on saying, like, if I die, it's going to be your fault. It's basically like you killed me.
Right.
mhm,
That's a good point because I think the problem with this film, because the direction they go at the end, it becomes surrealist. You don't know what's real or what's fake. But
mhm.
up until the very last 20 minutes, you sort of think everything is real, somewhat. You know what I mean? And now acting like you said, I didn't even think about that before. Can we even trust Harper as she's telling her story or what we're seeing from her story, right? Could she just be imagining everything, right? You don't even think about that until like the very end, maybe. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, I think his husband really died. I don't think
Mm.
he looked at her, really. I
Hmm.
think that part was imaginary. And also, like, all the stuff that in the village was imaginary. And
Mm.
maybe, like, the only part that was real was her first encounter with the house owner. And
Yeah.
then after that, she never really saw the house owner, and it was just like her own mind playing.
Hmm. Okay. Avery, what you think about that? Did James actually like fall down and face Harper as he was falling?
So this kind of brings me back. I know you guys watched it on what is it called, the Anatomy of the Fall, I believe. So when I watched that movie, I kind of thought of this one because, like, how many times is a man gonna fall from a roof or something higher up, right?
I
So
know, right?
I related those two films. So I was like, okay. So what I thought was like, because of that movie, you really didn't know what happened until the end. And the room, I think the color grading being red during the scene where they were talking, but it also in the scene where she was staring at him falling. I do believe that it might have not happened that way,
Mm,
which also everything that transpired after the fact, you never had a callback to that red color grade. So those scenes either didn't happen or they wanted to be emphasized. And then piggybacking off of what she said about him falling and him being stretched out, I also thought that like, if we remove the red scenes and just keep the regular color grading scenes where it was just regular color and enhance, and it made it seem like it was real. Him being stretched out like that, facing toward the sea,
mm,
not kind of like his head was kind of tilted down, and his hand was the only thing through the nail. Like I said, I also thought that was a Christian call out too, with Jesus being nailed to the cross in a way, because he was
mm,
kind of stretched out like that, and not really have that pointiness going through the hand. So I felt
yeah.
like that scene was more significant, seeing him that way. Because then why would you go down and look? You know, it's
Yeah,
so
and like
many
the
different
police
things.
weren't there or anything like that. Like she
Yeah,
went
like
down. Yeah,
you wouldn't go down and look to see if the person survived. I mean,
yeah.
you would you like? It's
You
something
could
you
look
ask
from the
yourself.
balcony. Like you could look over. Yep, that nigga dead. Like that's
Yeah, I
all you
wouldn't
gotta
look
Yeah,
to
I
see
do.
if
wouldn't
somebody.
look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this like I think one of the things that I could relate to in this film, like Acty was saying earlier, like, being a girl, like you're going to places and like men are being sexist or rude or you feel unsafe and stuff like that. As a black man, I feel that too. Like when I'm going places and I'm surrounded by a sea of white people and stuff like that, I can sort of have my head like on a swivel, be on my P's and Q's and stuff like that. So I get that like the film is touching on that sensitive nerve, right? That fear of anxiety around, people that seem to maybe just tolerate you, but you don't know what's in the back of their mind, right?
Hmm.
But I feel like where the film like falls apart a little bit is like they sort of take that anxiety and build it up successfully throughout the film and let it sort of just fall flat, at the very end with, the man giving birth over and over again and weird stuff that just happens. I don't know. Acting, what do you think?
I just thought like in those last scenes, it was interesting how, you know, the main character was acting because after a while, as men were giving birth to each other, she
Mm-hmm.
was sort of like, bored. She was
Mm-hmm.
done with it and she went inside the house. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't care anymore about all the freaky things that were happening there.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that said a lot because there's a point where you just get tired of the whole bullshit and then you
Mm-hmm.
just like let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel bad for me, that part.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Avery, what you think?
Um,
Like the
I
film, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
oh no, yeah, I'll let you go. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like the film sort of plays with this idea of like being the other, surrounded by another type of people, right? And being
Hmm.
the outsider, and you don't know exactly like whether these people tolerate you, and maybe you should be fearing these people, but there's like this polite veneer that people operate on. You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
a girl in a room full of guys, right? Like,
Hmm.
or that one black face in the MAGA crowd.
I think that man, I do think that she wanted this smoke though. Like she get in the car, she booked the Airbnb or whatever. You know, you want to go out there on your own. I mean, I agree, but then I also disagree. Like I feel like
Yeah.
you want to stand on your own. You asking for a divorce, you putting your foot down. then you
Mm,
kind of are receptive toward this type of lifestyle. You don't have anybody with you. So, but then
mm,
you want to go outside and explore, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, definitely that tunnel scene, where
Mm,
coming up, we'll probably get to it, but she,
yeah.
is happy, making noises, having a good time until she sees that there's somebody else on the other end of that tunnel, and then now you want to be scared.
Uh-huh. I get what you're saying. I feel like there's a part of this film that you could go very red pill with it. Like these broads want to break up with their husbands, but they still want protection. You get what I'm saying? I guess you can go that route with it.
Hmm.
I think that's why
Uh,
maybe this. Go ahead, Acty.
we don't. Okay, I just want to make this clear for every guy. We don't want protection. We just want y'all to act good,
Hmm.
and then we wouldn't need protection. That's
Okay.
all we want, really. And there's nothing wrong with like, wanting a divorce with your spouse and then going on a solo vacation. Any guy could do that around the world, but it's a problem when women do it.
Hmm.
Why?
No, I get what you're saying. Like, that's not my point of view. I just feel like that might be the view of a lot of men around the world. Like, women they are going to need protection, right, from like physical violence from men, right? Because most women can't overpower men,
Hmm.
like what Harper can't do in this film, right? That's why it's
Hmm.
so terrifying, right? She's in this village surrounded by guys. It's even more freaky that they all look the same, and we're like, how is she going to survive this? That's why
Yeah.
it's so terrifying. It wouldn't be the same movie if it was James in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by a bunch of white women.
Right.
That's a
We
that's a
was like,
porno.
which one he gonna hit first?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
That's a
Wow. This is exactly where the problem is.
but actually, you got to admit, a bunch of white women can't just beat up on James. And though that would be a funny horror movie, low key, call it
mhm.
women Karens.
I mean, if they're like, what is that called? Supernatural, it may happen.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the guy in the village was sort of like supernatural. He didn't die.
That's true. He didn't really die, right? Well, we don't know at the end. We don't really know at the end. But that movie should be made. Like James didn't die. He just divorced Harper and he went pog hunting in Sweden. And he goes to like some secluded village somewhere and these these women try to kill him. That would be funny.
Wow. I think this movie would also be interesting from like the husband who died from his perspective.
Hmm. Like what? He's trying to like warn Harper from beyond the grave, like get out.
I don't know if he was warning Harper.
Hmm.
He was sort of like the haunting
Yeah,
part of, the story.
yeah,
But it would be interesting to see his perspective.
yeah. But moving on in the story, not much happens. There's not a whole lot of dialogue. Harper is like exploring the town and going for a walk, and she sees this tunnel and she's making music with the echo of the tunnels. But then she sees a man at the end of the tunnel who sort of like runs towards her. She gets scared. She goes out into a field away from the valley where she's in, and she takes a picture of like some abandoned building and sees that there's like a naked man in the distance stalking her, following her. So then she runs home. Then that's when also we get the flashback of us finding out that her husband died. There was also another scene that I thought was interesting. I want to know what y'all think. At the very beginning, Jeff asks her, "Do you play the piano?" And Harper says no. But then she goes home and she's playing the piano very, very, like, very well. I don't know. Acty, what do you think about that? What was the point of her lying like that at the beginning of the film?
I mean, as a woman, I would just say like she didn't want to keep on having a conversation with Jeffrey.
Mm,
And then she just sort of lied because yeah, you experience that like, some guys they want to have conversations with you and they think they are flirting or being cute and you just like don't want to talk to them.
hmm.
Especially like older guys, I think. So yeah, I think that was just like her trying to protect herself.
Okay. Avery, any comments on that?
Yeah, I think that it just showed how sneaky and conniving women are. I don't know. That's why I said I think this movie is really just highlighting women. I mean, no disrespect, but you know what I mean. It's why would you say no, but then literally they show you playing the piano afterwards. To
Yeah.
me, it just shows like she's only for her own initiative. Just like you said, when she was nervous, she didn't want to continue to talk. but it also goes back to her requesting to separate from her husband. It kind of
Hmm.
goes back to that same character trait of you trying to get out of something,
Hmm.
um, and taking yourself over others. So yeah, I didn't like that, but I thought she was just being typical female type stuff. Some against
Okay.
female, I guess.
I think maybe that's a hint to like what Acti said earlier, that maybe we can't trust what Harper is telling us or what we're seeing from this film from Harper's perspective, right?
Hmm.
Because maybe she's not being fully honest, not only with Jeff but also with us, the audience, right? As we're on the outside looking in. So yeah, basically she's at home one day and she's like having breakfast, and she gets a call from her best friend, but we see in the through the glass windows behind her that the naked stalking man is outside, right? And this is the first time we get a close up of his face, and he looks exactly like Jeff, except he's bald, his eyes are kind of green, he has blood marks on his face and stuff like that. And yeah, so there's this very intense scene when she's, on FaceTime with her friend, but we see this guy like in the windows right behind her. And she calls the police come and arrest her, and even the cop looks like Jeff as well. So, actually, what did you think of like when we first saw that everybody sort of has the same face in this movie?
Yeah, I was just thinking like, wait, are these the same people? So I was just trying to grasp like if they were the same, and then like, yeah, I was like, okay, this is like now sort of weird. And, yeah, it was just very scary for me, like that whole, the guy, we see him out of the windows and he's walking around the house. It was very intense for me. I was really, really scared.
Mm, mm. Avery, what do you think of when we note of the film showing that the guys in the film all have the same face? They're played by the same actor.
I didn't. That's one thing I was said I didn't catch on to quicker. I think
Mm,
I caught on to it when she was at the bar.
mm,
I caught and say, bro, these don't look the same. And then I think I did watch it with my girl at the time when we watched it. No, I think I watched by myself. But I was just thinking, like, yeah, these all people who look the same. And that's when I caught it. I did not catch it at that time, to be honest.
mm-hmm.
Because there was a female there too, right? So I kind
Yeah,
of just more focused looking at the female than I was looking at the man. But yeah,
yeah,
I didn't notice it then, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. There is only one other woman that we see in this film, and it's the female cop. And she comes across like as pretty reasonable and stuff like that. But I feel like the film would have been more interesting had the cop, been Jeff too, like had his face, but maybe a beard or a funny mustache, different colored hair or something. You know what I mean? Because I think there's a metaphor they're trying to say with like all the guys in this town have the same face because they all exhibit different parts of manliness, patriarchy. You have the preacher, which represents us controlling religion. You have the little boy, which represents our, petulance, our naivete, our juvenileness. You have the guy who's constantly running after her, showing like, aggressiveness and force. And then you have like the naked man, which is supposed to be Adam. That's how I interpret it. But Acti, any comments on that?
Yeah, there's definitely like, I guess each guy character was representing like a bad part of men. I agree with that. And I guess also by making every character the same, they were saying like, oh, all men are the same and they just will like want to hurt us and they're all bad. It
Mm-hmm.
was giving a little bit of that,
Yeah.
obviously. And, yeah, I forgot. I was going to say something else, but I forgot.
Avery?
Yeah, I think I don't remember fully the scene of like the conversation that really gauge, the women in the movie, the only woman we see, but I do know she didn't look too far off of Jeff either. Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
honestly, she could have still been a lookalike. We just
Mm.
it was hard to tell because she was also a woman, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
she didn't look too off. I mean, they could have tried their best to try to make the women look like Jeff. I mean,
yeah,
if I pull up the picture, I remember she didn't look too far off.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
Just to add to that like woman part, I guess the woman symbolized like, the woman doesn't believe another woman that she's being stalked. Not that she didn't believe it, but she was sort of like saying, he doesn't seem too harmless. Like he isn't, he doesn't mean any harm, and yeah, I don't think we can do anything too much with him and stuff like that. So I guess that was just symbolizing, other women not taking other women's, abuse or scared, like them being scared too seriously.
Yeah, yeah. But one of the most interesting scenes happens next in the film. So Harper goes to like church. She goes to church and she walks into this like empty old church made of stone, and she walks up to the altar and they have something very strange there. They have like this altar that has like this weird symbol of a face that's screaming with like leaves coming out of it, and then the back behind the altar we have like this image of what looks like a woman busting open her vagina, like busting it. Is that not what it looked like? Acting, am I tripping? Did that actually not look like she was trying
No,
to?
yeah, she had like we saw her titties, and then like yeah, her legs were split open.
No, but she was like busting, like grabbing two fingers and spreading the lips. It was wild.
Wow! Oh my God, Simon.
She was. It was two hands. It was a two
She
hand
was she
motion.
was using two hands. It was kind of weird. And then then she looks up and sees the stained glass images of like Jesus and stuff like that. And she's sitting in the pews and she's like she has her head down, and then we're getting flashbacks of her arguing with her husband and then her husband dying and stuff like that. And then she screams like really really loud, and she sees a man in the back. Well, we see a man in the background, but she doesn't see it. And she walks outside. A little boy wearing a woman's mask takes off his mask, and we see it's like young Jeff. It's baby Jeff. And that was the worst AI. I'm sorry. That was 2022. That was the worst AI face I've ever seen. That reminded me of like that Kendrick Lamar video when he became like Will Smith and Nipsey Hussle, and you know what I'm saying? It looked like that. They got
Yeah.
this little kid to wear like a green screen mask for like 6 hours. But yeah, the little kid is like, "Do you want to play a game?" And she's like, "No." And he calls her a bitch. And the preacher comes up behind, and he has the same face as Jeff. And he sits down and talks with her about her guilt about her husband's suicide. And then he says, "Well, don't you feel bad that you sort of killed your husband?" And that was just wild. But anyway, Acti, any comments on that scene?
Yeah, for me, that scene sort of represented like the historical burden that was like put on woman a little bit, because in that scene where she's there, she sits down and she screams. So it's like, oh, like all these men around me, and why do I have to like suffer through this? I didn't do anything. I'm already suffering with the guilt of my dead husband. And on top of it, like I have to, deal with the stalker. I have to deal with the sexist weirdo house owner. And for me, it just felt like, every woman sort of carrying around this, burden they have from men.
Okay, Avery.
I think leading up to the scene, we haven't really seen a lot of emotion from her, other than the scene, the flashback scenes, before her husband jumped or she pushed him. Who knows? But
Yeah.
I think that was her only chance in the church. Most movies are when people break down, they break down in the church, right? So I just thought it really was her only chance to break down about the death. I really didn't think it was linked to anything else be going on. That's just my opinion, but I do think she was just bursting out because of the fact that, the death, and then going back on the face thing we saw about the screaming portion of, like, I guess the grass or whatever. And then, obviously the two hand motion that was going on. I think just like that whole scene was just the only normal part of the movie where somebody would go into a church, look at stuff, and get emotional, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you see the kid, that was the worst AI. I do agree. It looked kind of off.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was wearing like a woman's face, I feel like had some symbolism behind it. I just don't know what it is. At being nice at first, I thought it was him playing nice, putting on the face of a woman, playing nice, but really inside being an asshole.
Mm.
How Harper is, because he said
Okay.
no.
You
You
really
get what I'm
running with
saying?
that?
I mean, yeah, I'm just, hey, he had the mask on. He said, "Oh, I'm just like you. You want to play with me? Oh, no. Or I'm a big bitch just like you are." And that's
Okay.
kind of where I thought that was. And then speaking of the priest, being a normal weirdo, most priests are, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
He touches
Mm-hmm.
her leg, And that's the
Yeah.
first thing I noticed. I'm like, bro, you don't even know her. You touching her leg.
Yeah.
And that's why I initially thought like, okay, yeah, this guy's weird. And that's when I, obviously I still didn't notice that he had the same face at this point. And then I noticed there that when he touched her legs, he also touched the seat that she got up in. And I'm like, oh yeah, he on some freaky stuff. But that was my take on it.
Yeah, that was wild. I was thinking, how could she not notice so far that all these people look alike? Which now I'm watching the movie again, like on 2X, like just refreshing my mind. I'm like, Harper has to be having like illusions, or her mind is off, and we really can't trust her, right?
Mhm.
By how things are playing out in this film. Because this makes no sense how you could see this many people and they all look the same, right? And I was very intrigued by the altar with that symbol, with those symbols on it, because I'm like, I've never seen that in a church. Like, you will never see that sort of, debauchery in the house of the Lord, So,
Yeah. I,
yeah.
I think from one of the articles I was reading about this movie, it is like an ancient symbol that
Uh-huh.
actually is real, and it represents rebirth,
Hmm.
which we see a lot in this movie, more than expected.
Hmm.
But yeah, I also thought like the little, first of all, I didn't notice the vicar being same with Jeffrey. I
Oh,
noticed
come
the
on.
little
How could you not
boy.
notice that?
I didn't notice him. I noticed the little boy, obviously, because they had like same color eyes. So yeah, I thought maybe like the naked man and the little boy, they have some connection. But I didn't notice like, yeah, the vicar. And then I think it was really interesting also that he was wearing like a woman's, mask.
Max.
And it
Yeah.
also looked like, Marilyn Marilyn Monroe as well. Like it was like
Hmm.
this blonde mask, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think maybe it might represent like also men using other women to, continue their toxicity, continue their, mansplaining.
I got you.
Maybe.
I got you. I just thought it was hella weird that when Harper left that seat, the preacher took out some chapstick, put it on his lips, and licked it. I have to ask, does anybody put on chapstick and lick it?
Nah, that's what
No.
That's hella weird. I was like, have I been doing it wrong the entire time? Like,
It almost felt like he was like yearning for a kiss or something, or a
yeah,
woman's lips. Cause why
yeah.
would you do that? That was weird.
Yeah, that was hella weird. Very weird. But yeah, then there's the scene after that, Harper tells that preacher, like, fuck off. She goes to the bar and she sees Jeff there. And Jeff is there, the bartender is there, there's a few guys else in the bar, and they all look like Jeff. Then the cop comes in, and the cop says, yeah, we had to let that guy go who was at your house because, we don't have anything on him, really. And there's also a scene where we see that the man who was let go, the naked man, he's sitting somewhere underground. He cuts open his forehead and puts a leaf inside of his forehead. After that, Harper runs back home. She's sort of like pissed off that the cops can't do anything and nobody seems to be taking her seriously. And we also see that the naked man is stalking her from behind. She goes home and calls her girlfriend, and her girlfriend is like, stay there, don't leave. I know you want to come home, but I'm going to come there and be with you. And I noticed at that point, her girlfriend started to look like Jeff too. Was I tripping or not? I don't know.
It's crazy because I actually, at this moment, I actually start to feel like Harper might be, on the other, might be a little lesbian
Okay, she might
because
be lesbian.
yeah, that I took it because like my friend's not going to tell me. I know women may be different. I'm going to come and I guess it's a woman thing to say, but like
Yeah.
I don't know. They've been talking a lot. Her demeanor in the film, her little shortcut and all. Now she was starting to give me more like lesbian vibes a little bit.
Yeah, no, stop it, guys. No, I mean, yeah, it is a woman thing. Like, if your friend is feeling scared, you're gonna go there,
Yeah.
and that's just like, definitely like in those scenes as well. It was very relatable for me that yeah, you say that a guy did something to you and nobody really takes you seriously. Like, I feel like that happens all the time. especially like in the clubs and stuff. You say, "Oh, he touched me," and then he says, "I didn't touch her," and yeah, nothing happens, and he gets to stay there and stuff like that. So that was very relatable for me, and yeah, I've called my girlfriends before because I was scared.
Yeah. Now, I think that's understandable. I don't get lesbian vibes from Harper. I just think, she was hella scared, but she would be alive, or she would not be in trouble if she had a sassy black friend on the phone. Like her little, her little white friend back in London can't help her. Like she needs Keisha to help her in this
Yeah.
situation. But what was I going to say? Yeah. So basically, her friend, the connection keeps on breaking up on the phone, and she's texting her friend like her location, but her friend replies, I already know where you are, you stupid bitch." And the lights go out. She goes and looks out the window and sees the cop out there standing next to the tree with all the apples. And she's trying to talk to the cop. The cop doesn't answer. And then when the lights go out again, the cop disappeared, right? Then, the man that was chasing her before in the tunnel is like chasing her into the house. She slams the door shut. Somebody throws like a crow into the house. But then Jeffrey comes in. Jeffrey comes in and he's like, what's happening? I'm here to help you and protect you and all that sort of stuff. Acty, any comments about any of like those scenes? Like, because this is sort of close to the climax.
It was definitely a lot of tension. I
Yeah.
was scared a lot, and I was like biting my nails. Yeah, I don't know. And there was also like the part of me that was saying like, "Girl, like, what are you doing going outside, getting that near to the policeman, and like all of this stuff is happening? Why aren't you like just getting in your car and going?"
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like something you say in horror movies and stuff. But yeah, I was just scared for her at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Avery.
So going off of just the cop standing outside by the tree and then her running back inside. I think it was weird that the actual what's it called, the green. I guess they were the real reference to the film. I think it is actually mentions the Green Man, like this cycle of rebirth and whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
searched it up online, and that person that's naked that walks around with his thing swinging. He basically when he sticks his hand in, and like I think it turned the moment that she actually caused harm to the other. It goes back to the beginning. Everything's in red, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like she actually stabs the guy, actually causes physical harm, and that's when things really get turned up a little bit, from what I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Let me.
then
Oh,
go ahead.
well, let me just pick it up. So, like, Jeff comes and he tries to save her, and Jeff walks outside and says, "Oh, nobody's out here." But then the lights go out, and Jeff becomes the naked man with the leaves all over his face. Then he blows like dandelions into her face
Hmm.
and stuff like that, and she breathes it in. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, and then after that, that's when it happened. Yeah, I got it mixed up. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
And then yeah, that's when he does blow, and then she kind of like it goes back into a flashback, her screaming, I believe. Um, and then the face, the actual statue of like the person's face, that's the green or leaves or whatever, pops back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think this was kind of all over the place. But
Mm.
I know they inputted these frames for a reason. Again, at this time of watching, I didn't put it all together. Besides that, the person that's been following her is the person we see in the sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the connection I made at the time, but because they did it, the first screen was her over top of the statue, and then it was his face in the
Yeah.
peephole, like where the mail goes in. So, from what I remember, yeah, at that point I recognized that this actually is the same. And when she stabbed him is when everything really went up, I would say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. 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 Let
one
me
thing I
let
preferred, my bad.
go ahead. Go ahead.
One last thing. One thing I preferred was I wish they showed multiple of the faces of the people switching faces in the
Yeah.
house at one time. It would have increased the intensity a little bit. But the
Yeah.
fact they only had one person at a time obviously went back into the rebirth thing because you can't have
Yeah.
everything one on one.
Exactly, exactly. By the way, my guy Women Slayer, the person who suggested this movie, horrible name but good movie choice, I guess. He, he jumped into the chat. He said, "Hey, growth." He said, "What up to you, Avery?"
Oh, what's going on, man?
And he also said he's always late, but come on, join on in and join in on the conversation if you want to. Uh, when he blew the pixie dust into her face, right? I was like, okay, where is this movie going? Because I thought that was going to be like the seminal point where we find out who these guys were and what they want from Harper, right? And I thought the film was going to go in the direction like she shouldn't be scared of men, like because maybe the men that she's running from can actually like help her and get over what she has going on, right? That's where I thought it was going, and I honestly think if they went in that direction, it would have been better than what ended up happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because like she has like this weird dream sequence where she's like screaming in the bathtub, having flashbacks, and floating around in the house and stuff like that. But it never goes anywhere until like she stabs the hand of the green man when he puts it through the letterbox, and then it splits open like her husband's. Acting, go ahead.
I think like the way he blew pixie dust at her, it was like a peace offering, a little bit like you said. It wasn't exactly like a peace offering, but it was saying like, I'm not gonna hurt you. And then like she goes into the house and then he comes and there's that scene where she's actually holding his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like, okay, like, are they gonna make peace? Is this like not gonna be scary anymore? But then he like hurts her hand, and that's when she stabs him. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this was sort of saying, every time us women trust a man, they hurt us again. Like they say they're not gonna hurt us, and then we trust them, but then it just sort of happens again, and it's like a cycle.
I can
And
see
that's what
that.
it meant for me.
I can see that. Avery, any comments?
Gotcha. Yeah, going to I agree with some of the things Aki just said. I also think also that the men are like you said, and both of you said that it's a representation of different versions of men, and
Mm-hmm.
their actions in the film also are just related to things that maybe women would fear men do.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was the reason why each one did different things and had different personalities, leading up to the obviously the ending here. And the crow with the mask on it really I think symbolized, most different people believe the crow is like bad, or it's like a bad omen in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So putting a woman mask on the omen also kind of what's the word I'm looking for, solidifies my take on the fact that it's really the movie's called Men is actually just a uh shadow over top of the actual real omen of the film, and it's her.
Okay.
Because because if she stabbed when he put his hand through the door, and it resembled exactly where her husband left off with his hand on the guardrail, whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
It just brought it back to her seeing what she fears the most. You know, all
Which
this
is
is just reflect.
responsibility.
Yes.
If you want to take it there, I think the film is trying to say like, the number one thing women fear is responsibility for their actions. I think that's what
And
he's trying
Hmm.
that's
to say, and
not
that's why
true.
it's scary. What do you, actually? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know. With that crow scene with the woman masks on, and there was like some screeching that the little boy was doing there, right? Someone
Mm-hmm.
said that he was raping the crow with
Oh
the
wow.
woman's mask on. I didn't get that.
Oh god, that's way they're reading way too deep.
Oh, that's deep.
I don't know, but I think if it's like that, then it might mean like men think women are bad omen, but they actually are not. They're not,
He
but
said,
that's
"Spread
how
them
like men
wings."
perceive them, and that's why they do bad things to women.
I think
That's deep.
I think you can interpret this film as maybe an indictment on Harper. I don't. I can't think that though because Harper technically did not do anything but try to defend herself the entire time, right? So if you're going to say like, okay, the film is trying to say like women, are really the ones who show negative traits, and the men in this film are trying to just reflect that back onto her or women in general through Harper. It's hard for me to agree with that because Harper didn't do anything really bad to anybody. She's just trying to live her life, and niggas keep fucking it up for her.
Exactly. Harper is like Jonathan Majors. You know,
Wow.
he got chased down by a crazy woman because he wanted to possibly break up with her, maybe. and then she chased him down and took his phone and stuff like that. So you should understand how Harper is feeling.
Jonathan Majors is a metaphor now.
Yeah.
I'm done.
That's funny. That's funny as fuck. But yeah, so after she stabs the hand of the guy, the green man, right? She goes into the kitchen, and like Avery said, there's the little boy in there playing with the crow with the woman's mask, and his hand is messed up. So that sort of solidifies that, okay, they're all the same person, but it's a spirit that seems to be changing forms every now and then. And so the little boy is mad that she didn't want to play with him, and she's like, "I'll slit your throat." And he's like, "I know you won't, even though I bet you should, because that's the only way you'll survive," or something like that. And so she slams the door on him, and he says, "Let's play a game of hide and seek, and I'm going to count to 10, and you should hide, Harper." But Harper doesn't hide. She stays behind the door and counts to 10 herself, as she tries to go in and confront him, but then the running man bursts into the house and like chases her upstairs. And when she's upstairs, she thinks she's safe for a bit, but then the preacher comes in, and the preacher's got his hand messed up too. And he's asking her all this sorts of weird stuff, like, when did you lose your virginity? And I've been obsessed with your sexuality since I met you and stuff like that. And Harper asks a great question to him, and I feel like the film dropped the ball. And this is when it became pretentious bullshit for me. The film became pretentious bullshit when Harper asked the preacher, "What are you?" And he says, "I'm a swan." Now, I'm not going to look up all the metaphors for swan and the history of swans in literature and media to try to dig into what that meaning is. This isn't a Kendrick Lamar song. This is fucking bullshit Alex Garland A24 shit show. So I was so disappointed by the answer, "I'm a swan." But anyway, Acti, what did you think about any of those scenes?
Okay, so first of all, I think the boy, walking up to her and telling her that this is the only chance that she can get in terms of defeating him is sort of saying like what her husband was saying, like, if you divorce me, I'll kill myself. So it's like saying the only way a woman can get rid of a man is to kill him. Like, what does that say? I don't know. I feel like that was a little bad there. And then like, yeah, going upstairs, and when the vicar is with her, yeah, I thought that was like pretty on the nose, saying like, men sexualize women, and then they make her think like it's her fault because she has a vagina, and she is like the submissive one, sort of biologically, because something goes in her.
Mm-hmm.
And that automatically makes her submissive, like, quote unquote. So yeah, I felt like that's what it meant. But definitely I agree with you, like the swan answer didn't take me out of the movie, but it was definitely weird because I was like, what does that have to do with anything else?
Yeah.
Like, he could have said so many more things that were in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he said like, "I am you," or something like that, that would have been made more, that would have made more
I
sense.
think a better answer would have been, "I'm your other half," or "I'm your better half," right? Like something that we could break down, eat up, that has
Yeah.
more meat to it, more substance. Don't say, "I'm a fucking swan." What, what is that?
Yeah, like if he said, "I'm your other half," or something, then we can say, "Oh, it's internalized misogyny." And
Yeah.
then that'll be that. So yeah.
Or "I'm a man." Like, what do you say about, I don't know if you say this in Turkish, but when you're married in English, you say, "I have a better half," or "My wife is my better half," something like that, right? So I
No.
think it could have been implying like, we are meant to be together. I'm man, you're woman. We are meant to be despite our faults and flaws. You get what I'm
Mm.
saying? But
Yeah.
I don't know. Avery, what do you think?
So this scene was my favorite scene. I think because of it just solidified what I thought about Harper this whole time. She had the knife to his neck and had the opportunity
Mm.
to protect herself after she just stabbed somebody already.
Are you talking about the
You know,
little boy or the preacher?
so she stabbed the naked man in the arm. Then they reincarnated or, rebirthed into the little boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same hand was cut with the preacher. So the preacher scene in the bathroom, to me, she had another opportunity because he got down on his knees
Mm.
and she had the knife to his neck. And in this scene, I realized, like, if you're really in harm's way, which she didn't run, she didn't hide. Also, let's talk about the fact that she was told to hide and she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like she started counting in her head and said, "No, you need to hide because she's the problem." So, with that being said, he gets on her. He does ask some weird questions, but to me, watching her face, she actually seems interested in these questions because as he wraps his hand halfway around her neck,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't stop him up until she noticed that he was bloody or just got disgusted in that moment and decided to stab him. But she allowed him to get pretty close to. I just think she was turned on by it all, or this version of death
But
turn her on in some way because why did it take so long for you not only allowing him to get back up and thrust into you, but you allowed it to go on for some time before you actually stabbed him and he dropped. So
do you
like I
think?
said, to me she's a freak.
Okay, do you think that because the preacher was saying stuff like, essentially, you're a woman, you have power because of your sexuality, and it controls my mind, whether you
Mm.
know it or not, right? And do you think like maybe she was saying like, okay, I'm going to use my sexuality to get close to this guy so that I can kill him?
Yeah, that's a little too close because he was already on his knees with his neck open. So to me, she skipped past so many opportunities. She was nasty. She wanted to feel the thrust that he gave her on top of the zinc, and then when she's finished with him, she had to kill him just like her husband.
Oh wow! Oh, she did not kill her husband, my guy.
I'm just saying, but she inadvertently did because he told her what he would do, and she called his bluff.
Oh, Avery, come on, man. All right, we got to break this down. Avery, if I say right now, hey, I'm gonna kill you if you don't like and subscribe. I'm gonna kill
Uh,
myself if you don't like and subscribe. Are
I'm
you?
probably going to like and subscribe just so I don't have it on my conscience that you did it because of me.
That's wild. No, you. That's wild.
Okay,
Actually,
well, I have a question. Like,
go
Avery, you
ahead.
said it's usually like the woman who say, I'm gonna kill myself if you break up with me and things like that. Like,
Mm.
did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, 3, 4 times.
And what did you do? Like, you waited
I
before,
waited.
they were
Yeah,
not suicidal?
yeah, I waited until they calmed down, or there was a valid reason where they obviously wanted things to end too as well, where we came to an agreement where that wasn't they didn't jump to that conclusion. So yeah, I never just left at that moment. I always agreed to stay and talk things out until we both came to an understanding. Because you just never know. People do crazy things.
Yeah, but what if they like also punch you in the face and your nose started bleeding as well?
Well, I mean, from a man's perspective, it's different from a woman. So if a man hits a woman, I can see why she would feel threatened and frightened. But if a woman did it to me, I mean, I've had it happen. Not bleeding, but women have put their hands on me before. So yeah, I wouldn't even be. I'm in a unique situation. It's hard to ask me that
Those
question.
Dominicanas, those Cubanas,
Yeah.
they be going crazy, man. Damn.
Because I was thinking like, okay, before we saw that he hit her, I was thinking, okay, she should take it a bit slow because he is suicidal.
Mm.
And I would do the same. Like, I wouldn't just immediately break up with him. I would try to calm him down and get some help and stuff like that. But then after he punched her very hard, I would probably like kick the guy out too. And
I
I
mean, that's
wouldn't
just
really think,
justifying his death,
yeah, but
right?
I wouldn't really think he would actually commit suicide. And we don't even know if it was suicide. As she said, he might have slipped up as well.
Yeah. By the way, I've been getting some comments under the discussion we're having now. So I'm
Mm.
sorry to Women Slayer for not replying to the comments. I'm not getting notifications, but I'm going to read them. So Women Slayer said to us, I didn't watch Straw Dogs, but you guys talking about it reminded me of this movie, Men. Did you guys see any similarities? So, actually, do you see any similarities with this movie and Straw Dogs?
I mean, I think Straw Dogs does talk about some sort of like toxic masculinity portrayed by like the main character and also like all the other characters around the village, who abuse women and control women. So in that way, there is a similarity, but it's
Hmm.
just a very different take on it. And there's also similarity of like both of it being in countryside, I
Yeah.
guess, because it kind of says like, oh, okay, these people really don't have anything else to do with their lives, but It's not like in the movie Men, we actually saw the town folk. It was only one single man.
Yeah. I think the similarity between Straw Dogs and Men is that one of us didn't like it. Acty didn't really like Straw Dogs, and I don't really like this movie Men. So that's the similarity I see. Another comment Women Slayer left is he said, I think Swan meant beautiful. Now, it's hard for me to like say like, okay, when the preacher said, I'm beautiful, I'm a swan, I can't really get with that. I don't see that being the answer. It doesn't really resonate with me. Acty, what do
Maybe
you think?
maybe it meant like when I think of a swan, I feel pure. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it means clean, pure, without any wrongdoing. So maybe that's what the preacher meant, saying like, I am pure, I don't have a fault, you have a fault because you have a vagina. And
Mm-hmm.
you like sort of affect me in a sense that I don't want to, and you make me want to do things I don't want to do.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. Avery, any comments on that or no?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Straw Dogs. I'm not sure if you guys watched the remake or y'all watched the original.
We watched the
Um,
71, the original.
oh, the original. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see the original. I saw the remake, or the reboot or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know. I actually like Straw Dogs. I actually think I like Straw Dogs more than this movie.
I
Um,
definitely do.
yeah, I like Straw Dogs. It was a great movie. The remake was good. I didn't watch. I'll probably go back and watch the 71 one, but I don't know if I see. I guess still the undertone and the rebirth, maybe, because the husband in Straw Dogs, and also the main character, the female in Straw Dogs, kind of had to become a new person in a
Hmm.
way. I guess to protect. I mean, survive her old past in a way. So I would say yeah, but I don't know if it's like direct similarities. You know what I mean? Um, but I don't know. I wouldn't. I would have to rewatch it.
Yeah. I don't know about the new Straw Dogs, but I think the original that we saw, it shows a more nuanced type of masculinity because you have, the village idiots who are getting drunk and then they rape the man's wife and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end you have, the guy, the husband, sort of rising up to the occasion and defending his home, defending his wife and doing whatever it takes to maintain stability. Meanwhile, in this film, you just have men of different types sort of inflicting trauma and drama on this one woman. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't see many similarities, honestly. But yeah, basically after Harper stabs the preacher, right? She runs outside. She runs outside and she, gets in the car and she's trying to drive. She's driving through the village, speeding, trying to get home, and she hits Jeff. And this is where I hated this film. This is what I like because she hit Jeff and then decides to like stop, like just keep going. I was so pissed. But Jeff walks up to the car, drags her out, and says, Miss Harper. And then he drags her out and says, no, you're Mrs. Marlowe. And like calls her married name, right? And, Jeff takes the car and drives off. And there's this really cool scene. This is actually the scene I really like the most in the film. Harper looks up in the stars and sees like, the Milky Way and the galaxies and all the stars clear as day for like a good minute. And I really like that scene because I think it shows like the cosmic terror of helplessness. Like she had nowhere to go. Like this is reality. This is her world, right? The car speeds back and it's Jeff and he's trying to like run her over. He chases her back into the house and, Jeff then gets out of the car and she's standing in the garden and she sees it's now the naked man, the green man. And the green man's got a big belly and his face is like full of grass and leaves and twigs and stuff like that. He lays down on the ground and starts to give birth. And I don't even want to describe it next because it's kind of disturbing and weird. But yeah, he gives birth to another man, which is the little boy. The little boy screams, his belly gets big, and then he lays down and gives birth again to another man and another man, and it keeps on happening over and over again as Harper moves backwards into the house. And at the last minute, like she just like grabs the axe and like sits down on the couch while these people continue to reproduce. Axie, any comments?
Yeah, that was definitely stupid that she stopped for Jeffrey. Cause like, why are you stopping? It doesn't make sense. I would be like running over whoever came to my way.
Hmm.
And I like the sky scene as well. And I think like in this movie also when she was out in the forest before, when she was, hiking and stuff, we see her happy and relaxed and chill, and it always gets disturbed by a man showing up. So I feel like the movie also says a little bit like, I think there's like a connection between, nature, who's called usually Mother Nature, and it's sort of like symbolized by a female, and there's that connection where she finds happiness and peace in nature, even through the hard times, basically. And yeah, and the birthing scene, it was definitely very disturbing. After like the second time, I'm like, okay, I guess this is just gonna keep happening over and over and over again until eternity. And yeah, but I can see that symbolizes like generational, you know, toxic masculinity. Every father gives the toxicness to, his son. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree metaphor, also with the apples and everything.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then I think like I said before, when she like gets bored of it, I felt like she sort of overcame her trauma, of her like guilting herself into thinking it was her fault that her husband died. I felt like at that moment she was just like, it's not my fault, fuck it, like I don't have time for this bullshit. And then she just went inside.
Yeah, Avery.
I said, there we go with the accountability thing, right? I mean, I just think she, um, like I said, the whole, okay, let's go. When you mentioned the car chase, yeah, I thought that was dumb. I mean, she could have kept driving, but that's the black in us, right?
Yeah,
Saying, just run that over,
you
you
can
know what I
keep
mean?
going.
Yeah, so yeah, I said that was dumb, but I did like the scene when she's getting chased back, and then the whole like I said, since the Green Man resembles Rebirth, I get where all the people are coming out, but I really think they just did that scene for filler, maybe because they just wanted to get to the point of obviously who comes out at the end, right?
Yeah,
So I think they just did all that so that I don't know. I really thought at this part maybe more of her husband's tormenting her now.
yeah,
Um, in a way, because now that we know how it ends, it's like, okay, I see how you can look at this movie in different ways. Because I actually forgot that that happened. Now we got to the end. I'm like, yeah, you can look at it in different ways. As in now he's trying to torment her in a way, for payback in a way. But yeah, I didn't really have much to say besides this part because I just thought that he was trying to, stretch things out and make it real dramatic up until the point you see him again. And then
yeah.
he's also naked too as well, and I thought that was kind of like, okay, let's give the audience what they want to see, right? But
Nobody
yeah,
wants
that's
to
it.
see this old white man naked, man. Nobody want
Yeah.
to see this. I think if we're talking about like putting something on screen that people have never seen before and that you'll probably never forget, the movie succeeds at that, right? Like this is one of those scenes you'll always remember. Hey, remember when that man birthed another man out the top of his back, right? Like we'll never forget that. But like Acti said, the metaphor is kind of there, but it's so on the nose, right? Every generation births new men who have the same bad habits and traits, and they keep on needing women. And at a certain point, women just get tired of men's bullshit. Because at the end, Jeff is like crying in like Anna's Harper's face, right? He's like crying and like pleading for help, and Harper isn't even scared anymore, right? She's just like, whatever, dude, and just holds the axe and is like waiting for him. And in the very last scene, right, um, her girlfriend comes to the house or is driving to the house, whatever. But before that, we see Harper sitting on the couch with her husband, and her husband has been reborn, and his arm is messed up and stuff like that. He tells her what happened. I fell down on the spike, I broke my arm, and I wanted to really end it. And Harper asks, James, what do you want from me? And James says, I just want you to love me. And Harper says, right. And like just polishes the axe. We don't see her kill her husband or anything like that. But her friend comes and finds Harper at the house with like blood on the doorway and Harper like sitting in the garden like smiling, and that's the end of the film. Acting.
Yeah, I think that like her husband coming back to life, I don't think he actually came back to life. I also thought that was her imagination as well. And it's, it is a bit on the nose, like he's saying actually like what all men want is like love, and we want to be loved by our mothers, we want to be loved by our partners and sisters and everything. So it's kind of like what it comes down to. And I don't know how, but it like comes down to woman again, and we are the ones in fault a little bit. Like if a woman doesn't love a man, then, and if the man is broken, then it's our fault again. Like I don't know how that sort of made sense for me. But later on, in my theory, I think she was imagining everyone and everything. But I do believe Jeffrey actually existed, but he wasn't like a bad guy or anything. He was just a weirdo. And then I think he came to check back on her, and she actually killed Jeffrey because when her friend showed up, her car was broken and there was blood. So I felt like that part was real, but her husband wasn't real, and she actually killed Jeffrey.
Mm.
And I thought that her friend being pregnant was sort of hinted like maybe she wanted to have kids, or she wanted to be a mother with her husband, her deceased husband, but she was unable to do that because of his behavior, I guess.
Okay, Avery.
Yeah, the end of the movie obviously made everything seem real. Definitely during the daytime and seeing all the events that transpired. Yeah, I just think it's hard. They didn't give us enough concrete, evidence to point in one direction or another. But one thing that did stand out was the pregnant friend showing up, and her being pregnant. So I don't think we knew she was pregnant the whole time.
No, we didn't.
So I think that was significant. 'Cause I'm not sure why they did that. I would love to know why, but yeah, I think after everything happened and she's sitting on the couch with her husband and he asked those questions, or she asked, what do you want from me? And yeah, it just it left. It didn't leave. The movie was better throughout than the ending. Long story short.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great job building that suspension, the tension, all of that.
Mhm.
But that ending really is something else.
Yeah, and these dudes don't get online and say what they meant. They like to keep it open for critiquing because that's how they keep the movie going, right? People
Yeah,
watching it and recommending it. So we're never going to know.
right.
We're going to
I
have
mean,
YouTubers explain it, but that's it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it does have some open interpretation. I like how, I don't agree with you, but I like how in your interpretation you flip it on Harper, right? And
Mm-hmm.
say that maybe this is a critique of some of her habits or habits of women in general, right? I don't agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from because it's possible Harper did kill an innocent man, not her husband. It's possible, like Acti said, that she killed Jeff, right? Some guy in the middle of the countryside who just had a crazy, woman in his house, right? So yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. I think, the ending leaves a lot to be desired, and I think that this film can have a lot to discuss. But the worst thing is that I feel like it sort of makes it's this one film that sort of makes it seem like suicide is the fault of the people around the person who commits that. And I think that's a very dangerous message to give. Like, you don't want to tell people, hey, if your dad kills himself or your brother kills himself, maybe it was your fault because you didn't pick up or call him. My friend George killed himself. He called me right before he did it. I didn't pick up, and I refused to blame myself. Like, what could I do? He was in another city, state. So, I don't want people to think like they're responsible for people killing themselves, which I think this film kind of makes people do. But anybody got
Yeah.
comments on that?
Yeah, I think you got a point there. Yeah, I had a friend too in my elementary school. I was real young. Didn't know what was going on in his home, but he ended up killing himself. And, I was his friend. I didn't know what was going on. So if I did know, because what I would have felt like I could have prevented or said something to parents about what was going on, maybe. But yeah, I think I do get what you're saying about you don't want to have a precedent where people start to feel like it's their responsibility 100%, as long as you're comfortable and you can live with what you've done, or you brought value to the situation to try to prevent it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I agree with that. But yeah, um,
Yeah.
they didn't finish this off good.
Yeah.
Um, long story short.
It's sort of a dangerous message, right? Like the film is about
Mhm.
this woman dealing with trauma of a suicide, and it's sort of like the whole movie is her being tortured to be forced to have the conversation she didn't want to have with her abusive husband,
Which she
right?
should have could have saved his life. But I get your message. I get your
Okay,
message.
we can agree to disagree.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like if somebody punches you in the face, you don't have to talk to them ever again after that. You get
You're
what I'm
right. You're
saying?
right. 100%. 100%. I
Yeah.
get it.
But acting comments.
Yeah, I think it was more about like not that she's guilty of, causing her husband's death. I don't think like as the audience I didn't think about that or I didn't blame her for it. I just thought that even though that's not the case, she might feel guilty because of just how like people perceive the story maybe and just how everything escalated. She might be blaming herself, and it just like sort of opens up a bigger door for women blaming themselves for the stuff men do, or forced men forced to do and things like that. But I can definitely see like some you know bad parts of the movie, like the whole like rebirthing scene at the end was sort of made to have gore in it,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, and just like to disturb the audience, just to disturb it without that much of a deeper meaning.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I did enjoy it like when I was watching it.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to get to the end and just do some overall scores. But actually, I would like for you to read like maybe one or two comments from Letterbox. While I ask this question, I want to ask Avery this. You started off by saying that you really like A24 and you like watch all of their films and stuff like that. But I have to ask you, keep it real. Do you think A24 is falling off? You think they're falling off? They've been making some wild films. Like their early films were hella good, but I think some of their recent choices have been crazy.
Yeah, it's their motto is they leave it in the hands of the directors and the writers. They just fund the films that they believe will do good. Their metrics are more um they look for certain metrics, right? So they have fallen off, but you can only stay hot for so long, right?
Hmm.
But their name has been cemented a little bit enough so that people will still go watch. Or when something turns out good, people will say, "Oh, this was an A24. Oh, makes sense."
Yeah.
Where somebody would say, "Oh, this was an A24." It's just weird. They don't have the I guess responsibility of creating
Hmm.
something 100% great, because people aren't never going to say it's bad. They're going to say it's either weird or it's
Hmm.
really good, right? They created that kind of conversation. So yeah, they've fallen off a little bit. I've haven't watched a lot of their new stuff. They have a lot of films that they bought from people because they really started off as a distribution um, company. As far as films, they would buy films and release them underneath themselves. But long story short, they have a lot of different stuff that a lot of people don't watch. Like Past Lives was a good movie. It's
Hmm.
about like two Korean friends that knew each other since birth, and I watched it with my girl. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
They have things that aren't in the limelight that are good, and the stuff that is in the limelight is either going to be bad or it's going to be really good. So yeah, I agree with you. They've definitely fallen off of their
Right.
streak. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they had some hits in the last decade. And we're talking about Uncut Gems,
Oh yeah.
Midsummer, Moonlight. You get what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
Man,
Yep.
so many Climax, right? The Gaspar
Hmm.
Noé film. So many great films, right? I'm looking at their 2019, 2010s list. Looking into the 2020s, it starts to get a bit shaky. Starts to get a bit
Yeah.
shaky.
They really dived into the whole um abstract type of films, or
Hmm.
different. And right now, you're competing with a culture of people who are really into the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
They're in a tough position too as well. I mean, they're not, but they are. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It hasn't been good recently, of
Yeah.
course, but yeah.
Yeah. Actually, what do you think? Do you think A24 has fallen off?
I think they still have a couple of years,
Hmm.
but I do think they did really contributed a lot to the whole movie scene, because now if you see the style of the movie and if it's A24, you know it's A24. It's like this artsy, sort of quiet and a lot of scenery, a lot of weird shots and things like that, certain musics. So like the style of A24. So I think in that sense, I think they contributed a lot. I think it has like 5 more years and then it'll be bad.
Yeah,
Oh,
until the style gets copied and then reinvented and stuff like that. I appreciate what they've done for cinema because, like, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have sort of like an American answer to like French cinema and other European forms of cinema that seem to be pushing the boundaries, right? And we would just have like Marvel movies, like Avery said, and
Hmm.
so yeah. Actor, you got any of those comments from Letterboxd?
Yeah, they are hilarious. Like people are roasting this movie and they are saying this is the downfall of A24.
Mm-hmm.
So Esther gave this movie 1 star and she said Alex Garland has made 3 movies about women in a row and I can't help but find it weird that his entire conception of womanhood is just about being abused and traumatized.
Mm.
A discourse-ready screenplay that is so desperate to be interpreted that it doesn't even bother giving anything to chew in the moment. This is like the final boss of A24-ish horror, just a collection of ideas its target audience already believes, delivered at an interminable pace and full of tediously symbolic visuals. I'm so desperate for this bubble to finally burst.
Literally, I mean, the man's belly bubble did burst at the end, so maybe it did. By the way, his last 3 films at the time of Men were Men, Annihilation, and Ex Machina.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah, um,
Um, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, one thing. Just going off of their list of movies, just
mhm.
after Men came out, they've had. You're right. They had Pearl, which was a good movie, a decent horror film,
Yeah.
I guess.
Pearl was okay.
Um,
We enjoyed it. I enjoyed Pearl.
The Whale was good. I actually liked that movie. I know my girl
I
couldn't
like the
finish it.
whale. I like the
Yes,
whale.
I like The Whale. It was shot beautifully, and just the being in one place, they just
Hmm.
did a good job just capturing a essence of a home without actually being outside the home in a way. I just
Yeah,
love
but
that film. And obviously, the story is great.
right, but right after Men, they dropped Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Now that was trash. I don't know if you
I
saw
didn't
that.
watch that. See, I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna get that.
That was
I
true.
could tell it was trash. Wasn't what's call it in there? What's his name?
The guy who dated Kim Kardashian,
Oh
the
yeah,
white dude who stole
I'm
her
not watching nothing
condoms.
Pete Davidson is in.
Yeah, Pete
Um,
Davidson. That was so trash. It was so bad.
It was
they
very
had
bad.
what they had. They had Bow is Afraid. I didn't watch that yet. That's what Joaquin Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Past Lives, what I just brought up with the 2 Koreans in it. Talk to
Mm-hmm.
Me. Um, Priscilla, I haven't watched. I'm definitely not a big Elvis fan. I don't know who the heck that is. But yeah, they did kind of go down. Just looking at that list because I only seen 3 films that stood out to me.
Yeah. Acting?
Yeah. Continuing on with the, comments. Someone said 400% more birth than anticipated.
I know, right? You didn't expect, like, the woman's husband is dead. She didn't have sex the entire film, but somebody still gave birth to a baby.
Yeah. Um, Greg said, A24, please God, stop putting naked old men in your films. I don't want to see that prehistoric penis.
That's funny.
All right.
Yeah, and the last comment, I guess, Matt Lynch said, this isn't an intentional parody of A24 horror brand, but it should be. And I
You
can
know,
see that.
yeah. You know what was kind of a parody of A24? There was that movie we watched about the future where people have babies and eggs. Do you
Yeah.
remember? I think that was an A24 film too. And yeah, yeah. That's
One
all
more
I got.
thing.
That movie wasn't that bad. It was a
Uh,
bit weird.
it had who was the girl, Emily Blunt in it, or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was her, but something similar to her.
Yeah, yeah, something similar.
Someone.
Yeah.
What's your favorite A24 movie? I got 2.
Mine is Zola. I don't know if you've heard of Zola.
Haven't heard of it. Nope.
Oh, it's a really good movie. Really funny. It's a comedy movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Acting.
I forgot the name, Simon. The girl who has sex with the car.
Titan. That's
Tit-
A24?
I think so. I think
Okay.
so.
You like Titan more than Moonlight?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I do too. I thought Moonlight was overrated.
I would say for me it's three. Actually, I take it back. It's a movie with Scarlett Johansson.
Hmm.
That movie was good. I would probably rewatch it, and then it's called Lighthouse with William Dafoe and the dude from Twilight,
Okay.
and then In Fabric. In Fabric is probably my favorite one.
Yeah.
It's a black lady buys a dress, and the dress is haunted or something like that. Yeah,
Mm.
crazy.
Okay. Okay. All right. We might review that. Just send us the name. We have to find what's the name?
In Fabric, I'll send you the links right now.
All right. Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Cool.
Actually, sorry. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
A24 too. I like that movie as well.
Yeah.
it's
That might
crazy.
be the best one.
My friend recommended me everything. I fell asleep on it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Really? I
Really?
thought it was
Yeah,
fun.
I know it is good. I don't know why. It gives me Scarface vibes. Not Scarface in the sense of too much is going on and I end up going to sleep. I don't know why. It's like counterproductive. I need to rewatch it though. I haven't finished it.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Interesting. Okay. By the way, we've had some comments here from Women Slayer. Once again, sorry, Women Slayer, I'm not getting notifications that you're posting the comments. But he said this about A24. He said A24 movies flop most of the time. Civil War was their first real hit. They haven't really started. I don't know if you can say it's their first real hit. I think Uncut Gems was a hit. You know, Midsummer was a hit. I don't think Civil War like killed it at the box office. I don't think so. I have to double check. But he also said this, Zone of Interest is A24 and it won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film last year. So I'm not saying
Mm.
like A24 is like done. I just feel like overall they've fallen off and like everything they did was always a hit. Like it was always seen as like a cultural moment or they had, movies that moved the needle. And that seems to be done. Zone of Interest might be great, but they've also dropped a lot of flops as well, I would say.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Um, any other comments?
A lot of funny ones. Let's see. XY Machina, someone said. Wow.
Wait, what?
XY Machina, not
X,
Ex Machina, XY.
XY. Okay.
Like the
Oh, because of boys.
chromosomes.
Oh, the chromosomes. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up here. We talked about everything, I think. And I want to shout out my guy, Avery Adams, for joining in. Please join in more. Good to have your input.
Yes,
And
sir. Yes, sir.
I believe you also sent like another movie that you wanted us to review. It
Yeah, that
was
just came out. It's hot right now. Everyone's talking about
The
it.
Deliverance.
Yeah.
It looks crazy. I feel like I know the woman who's in it in the thumbnail.
Yeah. I normally don't watch when stuff is so hyped up. I like to wait for it to die down. Like the movie y'all watched, what's it called? The Tyler Perry movie. I didn't
Divorce in
watch
the
that.
Black.
Yeah, I didn't watch that till like a couple weeks after. You know what I mean? I don't really watch stuff when it first come out, but this sparked my interest because of the actors in it. Monique is in it. Omar Epps is in it. And they're
Yeah.
not front runners of the movie. But they're in the movie, you know what I mean? So for them to sign on to a movie, both of them, and then what's her name, Glenn Close being in the movie. I
Hmm.
said, yeah, this got to be good. So
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Interesting. Interesting. By the way, before I wrap up this live stream, the movie I was talking about earlier is The Pod Generation, and it's not an A24 film. It's not from A24.
Mm.
But yeah, and it was Amelia Clark, Amelia
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and Chitewell Ejiofor. Yeah, that film. But once again, shout out to Women Slayer for the film suggestion. Thank you. Send more film requests. Shout out to Avery as well. Love you, AKDI, and y'all be easy out there. Peace.
sir, thank you, appreciate it.